One of the nice things about ministry, when it's God-given to you, and it's your ministry, and it's something you get to offer up to God, and God gets to inspire you with, you get to do what you want to. Sort of. You see, my staff, they, guide me. And they instruct me. And they keep me straight. On the straight and narrow. I mean, really, they do. But I wanted to take the time to remind myself, as well as to those who maybe watch VidDevo for the first time, or maybe, get too serious. Don't get so serious. I mean, God's with you. God is going to take you through it. God is going to remind you that though there will be in this world tribulation, to be of good cheer, to rejoice. Count it all joy, brethren, when you follow diverse trials, tribulations, as James said. Knowing, hey, guess what? If you're in Smyrna, you know what I'm saying. No, but if you realize that, hey, what's the worst that can happen? You die? So what? You close your eyes, you wake up in heaven. The joy that I have in these guys, is nothing compared to the joy that I have in you. Because you see, last night, or as this may be recorded, I should say previously, because by the time this is posted, or whatever it may be, it won't have been last night. But in the day that I record this, it had been last night. So when I was attending the church that I go to, I so enjoyed the message because it was so personal and so real. It wasn't just that, the pastor is, anointed and appointed, though he is, or that the worship is so wonderful and magnificent and, God is using the people as they are, though he is. Those are just, to me, given things, because I do know that wherever you go is just as well that you be there, because that's where God is. Because wherever two or more are gathered, there Jesus is in the midst. And so I don't have a problem with people not going to my church. As a matter of fact, I'm usually pretty thankful, though I have a feeling God is leading me onward. But anyways, the point being is that where you are, as you are, if God's put you there, stay there. That's where God wants you to be, and you'll be blessed. Trust me. I've been through some really strange experiences in some of the places I've been. But here I like to say, at the end of my life, and I still got a few years left, depending upon how long the Lord tarries, which isn't very long. It will be soon, trust me, very soon. Maybe not this year, like I keep telling people. Yeah, it won't be this year, but after that, don't count your blessings. Dependent, might not last much longer. Everybody's pretty much, kind of like out of their mind with 2015 and onward. It's like, ooh, And the only thing that's keeping people going right now is the fact that Billy Graham's still alive, and so's Chuck Smith. So it's kind of like, hey, you know what? As long as they're around, I don't think the Lord's going to rapture us yet. Once they're gone, uh-oh. Any time now, Lord. But my point is, in last night, enjoying the study and the fellowship, my wife is preparing to do something to go visit someone who's departing from her, who's no longer going to be with us in this land of the living, but is going to go home to be with the Lord in that place with which God has created and made a place for him to be. And so she's going to say goodbye, though he may not die tomorrow or the next day. It will be soon, and we do know that. And so knowing that we don't have always the opportunity to plan out when we say hello or when we say goodbye, it's always good to be prepared, to be mindful of those things, that not only can Jesus return any day now, because no man knoweth the day or the hour when the Son of Man will return. Dare I say, the Jewish way of saying that is, no man knoweth the day or the hour when you will die. So guess what? Be ready to say goodbye. So we kind of like to get our house in order, to put things in place, to have things already settled, so that it doesn't come upon us as a shock or a big surprise. only like, when you start hitting like, 80s and 90s, or, even when you start hitting 50s. Who, me? You should start thinking, hey, you know what? You ain't gonna live forever, or are you? But you are going to be there in heaven forever, but you will not necessarily drag this carcass with you. So you need to kind of take care of the situation with some of the provisions that God has given you, wisdom and decision-making process, and, kind of like touching base and making sure that, we are in the faith. Even as John the Baptist, when he was sitting in prison, said, I think I got an exit plan here. I think they're going to come wipe me out. Maybe I need to find out if this is who I think he is. And if you read another gospel, it kind of gets interesting, because you kind of go, the time frame is interesting of where it was and what type of ministry was going on, or when it was. So I'm just not going to go there with that one, because that's what people argue about things. But my point being, John says, hey, I want to settle things. So he sends a messenger to Jesus, to ask him, are you the one that was, prophesied, or should we expect another? And Jesus, sends him back a message, tells him what's going on. And so the benefit that I see is that last night my wife was given such a huge word from the Lord. I mean, it was so personal. I mean, it was almost like every word was spoken to her. Now, for me, it was also encouraging, because it was telling me some things about what I have to do in the future too, about some other things, that I'm dealing with, that I don't want to do, but I already know I'm going to do them. It's like, I don't want to, but I will go. But even with that message, and the message was so wonderful, that isn't really the point I'm bringing up. What was interesting was that I had a chance and an opportunity to talk to some new people. I mean, they're old people, but for me they were new, because I never met them before. Now, one of the persons, had been sitting, kind of off to my right for a little while. I think I'd seen them maybe 2 or 3 services, and I've only been to this church, I guess, you'd say, I don't know, a couple months, maybe a little longer. The only reason I haven't really volunteered for anything there is because they said you got to go for 6 months before you even apply. They have a little application form, so I'm not going to bust their chops on it, but that seems kind of like dumb to me. But anyways, okay. It was kind of like interesting. It was like, oh, you fill out all this stuff, and I know why they do that, because, you got to have security, you got to have all this stuff. But for me, it's like, okay, I'll obey, Lord, well, I'm here, maybe they should take it off their website. Their website's not always keeping up to par, but that's okay. If that's what needs to be done, they need to put those things out there, because that's what needs to fulfill the law. As John said to Jesus, and Jesus said to John, let it be, suffer it to be so that we fulfill all the law. And I would fill it out, and turn it in if I was going to be there. Shoot, by the time the 6 months are up, I'll probably be gone. But hey, oh well. But meeting these people, it was fun to finally meet someone that, had been there for a long time. I mean, they had been there like from the beginning, so to speak, and the message was like Jesus from the first to the last, and this person had seen a lot and experienced a lot in the Lord, there in the ministry, and how it had grown up from where it was to where it is today, and I was blessed, and I was asked, personally about how I, it kind of, started off on the, typical fleshy kind of stuff, like, well, how long you been coming here, where'd you come from, and, the yada yada questions I always say. It's always like, I wish I could just say yada yada, and, people would know that I mean, let's move on to something with meat, let's just get over the superficiality and get to where we can agree on that we agree on, and we do agree. And it was like, well, Lord, I've gone to these churches, I've gone to that churches, check this out, check that out. And I said, we were overdoing this work, and done again, as missionaries, so to speak, at large, and then we'd been from Reno, we'd taken care of his mom dying, blah, 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 yeah. And then they said, well, and there's something about how long you've been married. I said, well, about 8 years, well, how'd you meet, I was like, well, on the internet. How else? Look at VidDevo. Where do you think I met people? Which was like, really? And I'm like, well, yeah. That's how I met my wife, by the way, in case you're wondering. Yeah, I mean, we even started to write a book called email, meaning with the E and then mail, because, we had been writing email too, so that's how I met my wife. And the Lord used it. I mean, it was like easy to see that. I mean, and she got saved, and everything's, been interesting, along the way. Needless to say, you do reap what you sow. And guess what? You're also going to, develop, certain things that you better be very good at, carrying baggage, because if you've been through this process of divorce or these things that, are consequences of actions, then you realize that everyone comes with repercussions, is what they like to say. But really, I like to say it's baggage. You all got baggage, and guess what? You got to learn how to deal with it. You either crucify it, get rid of it, toss it out, or if you're still carrying it, better be a good baggage handler. I happen to be a good baggage handler. I know how to carry things. I can carry a lot of things. Matter of fact, my wife used to see me carry all kinds of things, and not just the groceries. But God will take away all our burdens and cares and worries and frets and stresses and choices and decisions and things that we've gone through in order to bring us to Himself. And so I was blessed to hear, and to begin to talk to the person as we began to share about how, maybe, all these other ministries, they're good for other people, but they weren't where we wanted to be, where God wanted us to be. And God had brought me here, to the place where I was sitting talking to this person because He wanted me there. And it just fit like a glove. And she used that fit like a glove thing analogy. Then how much we were all blessed by the pastor, how he was, at this point in time in his life, grown up into the man that he is, this day that we're listening to him, and how wonderful it was, and how she shared of her experience of her watching the pastor grow up. And I was reflecting on some of the men of God that I've seen grow up over the years, and some of them were real characters, and some of them turned out okay, and some of them, well, they're still real characters, kind of like I am, I guess. Maybe I'm kind of a character too. But the joy that I had in sharing that was to at least have a fullness of the family that I am a part of. And I more so than maybe they are, know that in all these places that I go, I feel more at home than they realize. I feel very comfortable with each and every person there. I have no problem with, hey, laying down my life for them, because hey, I'd blow your mind with what I would do for you. I'd shock you out of your shorts if I just decided to not pray first and just do like sometimes people say, they want done. Because pastors that I've worked with were shocked when they would say something in the pulpit. I'd go out and do it. It's like, hey, you know what? The pastor would say something like, we really, need to get some volunteers for blah, blah, blah. And I'd go volunteer. Or we really need to get the parking lot thing. Next day it was done. Or, sound system's been acting up. Next day it was done. It was like no questions asked. To me, it was like automatic response. Go, do, be, about, the work of the ministry. And I was raised that way. I was kind of in the church, meaning that I wasn't raised up when I was younger, saved or anything. No, I got saved out of high school. But from that moment on, once I was saved, I couldn't wait to do anything and everything. Whether it be cleaning toilets, picking up cigarette butts, whether it be a janitor. God bless them. I got to throw in a plug there. God bless the janitors in heaven. Or working behind the scenes as a volunteer, which is even more of a like janitorial work without getting paid. Setting up chairs and, running here, running there, being the second man that, you hand the guy the hammer, you hand the guy the nails, you clean up his mess, you pick up his stuff, you keep him organized, you talk to him, you visit with them because then it keeps them on target and, and directive. Or you're sitting out in the congregation as one of the people that, you inspire because you're praying for them and you're participating where other people aren't. And that helps to inspire those that are on stage or on the bema or the pulpit or wherever you want to say is the focal point of the people's attention. Because most of the time when people are paying attention, they're drawing from and pulling from the ministering of the Holy Spirit that's going down through the man out to the people. So I've always learned that, hey, you know what? You should be like pouring back, from the crowd to the pulpit, the ministry, the bema, the thing, and reversing the order, so that way we get blessed even more. So it's like a splish splash back and forth. You kind of get a gushy ushy-gushy kind of thing going, where you go splash, 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 and we all get drowned in the love of the Lord, so to speak. So that's why I was talking about family, because that's what the ministry of what we call church is meant to be. Family. You and me. Kind of like, face to face. Dealing with each other, as weird as we are. Kind of like, wow. A little different, huh? Especially. Yeah, that's the way it is around my house. A little different. Ooh. So, I don't want to blow the doors off people because of how unusual I may be. But at the same time, I am blessed by hearing those stories that come out of where people have come from, and to where they're going, because, I told them I've been saved for a while, and then got pushed a little bit, so I said, yeah, I got saved, Jesus moved me, yeah. And it's like, yeah, that was then, but this is now. What's going on now with you? How's the Lord talking to you today? And it was funny because I was complaining about that in the morning, and by night when I went to church, God had already taken care of it, because these people were talking about what's going on now, what they're blessed with, and how Jesus was working in their life. And it was so cool, so wonderful, so magnificent of my God to give to me what I prayed for and wanted without ever saying it completely, without ever, kind of like going, hey, you know what, I don't really want to talk about golf, baseball, basketball, football, sports, the job, some stupid thing is going on in the world, I don't care, to me, that's not what I'm there for, I'm here in the body of believers to enjoy Jesus, It's like, ooh, see the crowd? They're all getting excited. You're going to talk about Jesus? Jesus? Where? Huh? Let's go. Ooh, yeah. I'm like a pointer dog, I want to see the glory of the Lord. I want to know the fellowship of His Spirit. I want to be a part of that presence of God walking by and say, hey, whoa, there go the Lord. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. And there he goes, and I'm going with him. Hey, I want to go where God goes. I want to be where God is. I want to experience that presence that God has promised us by way of His Spirit to be in us, to bring outward to the world around us that very nature of God when two or more are gathered, that I was feeling that night as I listened to the person share with me that with which I was blessed by, as well as she inspired me to go on with God and the things that I was doing and the things that I was sharing. And then likewise, it was amazing because, I heard another person, sharing, and it was kind of like a shy person talking, and they began to talk to my wife and talk to me, and it was like, they were mentioning like a ministry they want to get into, and how I remember those days of being so afraid, like, ooh, what's going to happen? But every time they spoke about it, you could see their eyes light up. It's like, oh, well, it was like, and then they would say something, and it was like, man, you could see like the Lord just quicken them, quicken them, like King James say it, thou hast quickeneth the word. Well, quickeneth just means make alive. It's like suddenly your heart skips a beat. That's what the word quickeneth means. You go, ooh, wow, what happened? Something just shoop, came into focus. Something just went, bing, light bulb. I got an idea. No, but the reality of how the Spirit of God comes upon a person, uplifts that person, and revives them inside is often evident on the outside to we who are watching and looking for those things. And so I was blessed to see Jesus in that person, automatically, though talking about other subjects too, automatically quickened every time it was back to what the Lord was doing, back to what God was taking that person to. And it was like, ooh, like almost like a deer, in caught in the spotlights, frozen. And it was like, man, a moment in time when God is sublime. And that's the word I think of when I see that in fellowshipping, in sharing, in caring for people and being cared for. I think of it as sublime. Because that takes me to the supernal There's a good word for you. Takes me to the eternal reality of God in the kingdom of heaven, in us, outside of us, all around us, about us, and that we are a part of. Because we're not just family, but we're in the kingdom of heaven, going out with the message that God has given us. And this person was being prepared to go forward, to go forth, to go out from that comfort zone, that this place that, I've been fellowshipping at and having, wonderful time, has been such enjoyable for me. Though I still haven't got a chance to really meet some of the people that I really want to meet, It's like, well, God knows if I don't get a chance to meet the pastor, I'll meet him in heaven, or I'll meet him in the millennium, or you know what? I'll see him in eternity somewhere, who knows? He'll be a star shining in the, in the universe, and I'll be a little moon, just going, wow, there you are, so far. Okay, you're bright, I'm dull. But anyways, the aspect of that reality of being ministered to and ministering to, that joy from the word and the worship was so good. And sometimes you wonder, can it get any better? And you think back to that day yesterday, and I think, wow, look at the peace I have today. So you see, it isn't always about what happened before, whether when I first got saved, or yesterday, when I saw so much of the Spirit of God moving in a powerful way. But it's also today. For behold, the day that I'm in is so peaceful, so calm, so beautiful. I tell my wife this. I say, you beautiful, beautiful. You're so beautiful. You know how beautiful you are? Beautiful. You're gorgeous. Yeah, gorgeous. I tell her that all the time. She thinks I'm crazy. Okay, they do too. What can I say? Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. I was expecting them to fall over, and sure enough, they don't when I'm doing it right. Oh well. And that's kind of what Christian life, the abundant life, the life God wants to manifest in you, is supposed to be. Joy, peace, love. It's supposed to be, when you come together, you leave not far apart, but you leave as one. Because you've come together in the name of the Son, and He's prayed for you to His Father, that even the prayer that He said for His disciples, that they would be one as I and my Father are one. When God is bringing that together, you'll see it, you'll know it, and you'll feel it. And until you do, don't be satisfied with what you're going through, because believe me, none of my trials, and they are many right now, both of finances and physical challenges and health challenges and even eating. Dare I say, poor is poorer and poor is getting poorer? Oh boy, is it getting rough out here. None of that changed. But you know what? You know what? None of those mattered waking up today, because I was so blessed. Because I had found so much rest in just being loved and loving, as Jesus said to do. Behold what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the sons of God. Beloved, it does not appear what we shall be, but we know that when He appears, we shall be like Him. So now, what manner of love have you today? What manner of love did you have yesterday? Oh, let me say to you, oh, you faithful and faithless, behold what manner of love the Father has given to us. Not just that we should be called the sons of God, but that we should be the sons and daughters of God. Because that's what we are.